Italy has a few things it is famous for: the landscape, the architecture, the artists, and now whips. In Italy, there is a whip maker which I consider to be one of the best whip makers we have here in good old Europe. Well, in fact, I think probably he is the best whip maker we have here in good old Europe. And his name is Giovanni Celeste. What makes a whip maker different from another? You know, there are some whip makers who deliver really good quality. No doubt about that. It's about the passion. What I'm saying is this. Some folks make whips just for the money. Everybody needs money for a living. Yeah, sure. But there are folks who make whips just for the money, you know, just as a work. All they ask themselves is, okay, how much money I can make with this one? And there is passion. And that's a thing that is typical for Giovanni. Well, I know Giovanni for a few years now. And Giovanni is always in love with the one he's creating at that moment. And that's what I call passion. The passion for the craft, the passion for the material. And now I have a wonderful piece of art, a beautiful whip I'd like to show to you. In the history of whips, there are two really iconic whips. One is the well-known Indiana Jones whip. And the other one is the Zorro whip, or the Zorro type whip, the Zorro-like whip. Let me explain. The problem with the Indiana Jones whip is this. Everybody, all the fans, want to have the most screen-accurate Indiana Jones whip ever. And that is a problem for the whip makers, because this screen-accurate thing that makes it impossible for a whip maker to be creative at his own. Yeah, I know those folks. I really know them. You know, it's that with a magnifying glass on the heel knot, then this, here on the heel knot, this strand is 1.3 millimeters too far to the left. That makes it not 100% screen accurate. It makes it probably 98% screen accurate. Okay. You know, what I'm asking myself is this. I know a lot of people who bought Indiana Jones whips, and those folks who are only out for the whip being screen accurate. The funny thing is, they have the bag, they have the pants, they have the hat, they have everything. The only thing is they don't look like Harrison Ford themselves. So the only thing that is not screen accurate, that is themselves. But the whip has to be. And, you know, so a whip maker with Indiana Jones whip, the whip maker who makes Indiana Jones whip, is really, really bound. He has his hands really cuffed. You know, and you say, oh, it has to be exactly like that. And that is a problem. The other thing, and therefore I love that, this is the Zorro whip, or, as I said before, the Zorro type whip, or a whip like Zorro style whip. Thing is, over the decades, there were a lot of different Zorro movies. The old black and white movies, then the versions with Antonio Banderas, you know, there were a lot of different things. And so there is not the Zorro whip. You know, Zorro always had another type of whip. You know, sometimes it was a stock whip, then it was a bullwhip, then it was a whip with a ferrule, it was a whip without a ferrule. And that is what it makes interesting for a whip maker, because here the whip maker can express himself in his own way. And that makes the whip from Giovanni, made by Giovanni, a very special one. Let me assure you, this whip is a real beauty. You know, the ferrule with the floral patterns here, the gaucho knots, all this stuff, it's really made wonderful. Oh, and don't forget about this. It's very nice here in the heel knot. You have this little metal plate with Giovanni's logo. This is a really nice thing. So it's, yeah, the silver rings, the silver ferrule. Oh, it's a rue whip. It's made from rawhide. That makes it very lightweighted. On the other hand, on the other side, it makes it unbelievable floating. I mean floating. It's like water. It's like a wave. When you watch the whip from your own point of view, you know, when you have the whip and you see it, and you see the whip rolling out, it is like a wave. It's like water. It's really wonderful. Therefore, yes, floating. But you'll see the whip in action later on. There is one thing I always check. It is the fall. You know, the fall is a thing the most people don't pay very much attention. The fall is the fall. Yeah, you know, a fall. What is the fall? The fall is the piece between the braided part and the cracker. So what? No, I really like to inspect the falls very close. Well, aside of the fall hitch here, you know, the knot. I made a video on that. It's a Whip Basics Shorts that's exactly about this part of the whip. But first of all, the fall here on this whip, you can see the love for the detail on this fall. You know, it's very, very nice. It has a nice taper in it. It is really, the corners, the edges are broken very careful, and it's very, very smooth. It's a really, really nice thing. And that is, again, the difference between making a whip just for making a whip or the passion. It's the detail. This fall hitch here, for example, this fall hitch is simply amazing. You know, all the strands, one on top of the other. Everything is in a row. Everything is symmetrical. This is a wonderful piece of work. Like I said, the details. It is not so hard to make a whip. You could say, okay, look here. Beautiful whip. Cracks, wonderful, fantastic. Cracks, loud as a gunshot. Yeah. And that's it. But the details make the art. The details make the whip a piece of art. it off. A very important question. This whip, especially this one here, for whom is that whip made? For what kind of whip handler this whip is a really good one, I would recommend. Well, on this whip I have to say a thing I don't say very often, because here, I have to be honest, I don't know. I really don't know. But this is a positive thing here. Let me explain. Usually I can say, okay, this whip is for a beginner, or this whip is for the advanced whip handler, or this whip is preferably for target work, or this whip is especially for show, or whatever. I found it really interesting because this whip is very precise. It can be very fast, but you also can crack it very slow. That's a matter of the balance in the whip. With this long handle here, you have a very, very good control over the whole thing, over the behavior of the whip. So that means you can change the direction very fast. You don't need to put a lot of effort into a crack. It's about the leverage of a longer handle. Yeah, you just go, and the whip goes down in a very nice way. So the interesting thing here is because that's why I said I don't know. Okay, let's break it down. If you are a beginner, I would in general not recommend a Ru whip, because Ru leather is not as forgiving as nylon. Okay, but if you are a beginner and you are not going to crack your whip like a crazy man on gravel or concrete or something, if you are a beginner but you know what you have here, then I can recommend this whip for a beginner too. Absolutely. For the advanced whip handler, yes, 100%. Because the advanced whip handler will find this whip very helpful, very exact, very straight. For the show, when you say, okay, I want to do shows, stage shows on fairs or whatever, or Western shows, I can recommend this whip because it is fast. You can do a lot of different things, like I mentioned before. You can change the planes. You can go from one direction into the other, from one plane into the other. You can do the body wraps, go bam, bam, bam. You can vary the speed of the cracking. This is, okay, in other words, I would call this, I said this about other whips too, okay? So this is not the only one, of course, but this is one of the few whips I'd consider a multi-purpose tool, because you can do really nearly everything with this one. And this is a very interesting thing, I guess. I can recommend this whip here even for non-whip handlers, because, trust me, this one here makes an excellent decoration for a home. I know a whip is made to be cracked, yes, absolutely. But this is one of the few I can think, just to put it and hang it on your wall to say, hey, this is a piece of art. Like you put a painting on your wall or a beautiful statue or something like that. There are a few words. Giovanni told me a few things about this whip, about his ideas, and I'm going to read it to you. It's just listen. So these are the words of Giovanni Celeste.
The longer part of making this whip was not to make the whip itself, but to choose the patterns of the overlay and the right patterns of knots. My purpose was to create a whip that is the combination of Hispanic, Andalusian, and Californian and Mexican influence. Well, differently than Indiana Jones whips, that, however, have always the same specifications as bullwhip with a short handle and braided loop at the base of the handle, there doesn't exist a typical Zorro whip because it was always different in terms of style. You know, in every movie it was a different one. The first movie of 1900 something until nowadays. So the only thing we know about a Zorro whip is that it is a long black whip, and that's enough. The Zorro whip is not just a whip, but a whip philosophy. It's like a sort of tribute where every whip maker interprets for this extraordinary character. So this whip will be only my personal interpretation and tribute to Zorro and his trusty whip. And for this reason, I decided to give the name the Don Juan de la Celeste.
I really hope that this was helpful for you and that you enjoyed the pictures. If you're interested in that whip or in that style of whip, again, the good thing is this is not the Zorro whip. It is a kind of Zorro style whip. So that is not only, there is not only room for the whip maker to express himself, it's also very interesting for a customer who says, okay, I want to have that whip, but I want to have this change or that change, or I'd love to have this here integrated or that. That's a really good thing. On this one, the whip maker himself and a customer, you know, on such a whip you can work together and you can really make it a personal one. So this is a Zorro whip, a Zorro style whip made by Giovanni Celeste from Italy.